In 1940, a Soviet medical film was shown to the public. It featured a severed dog's head kept alive on a table. Tubes ran into its neck, and a machine helped pump blood through its arteries. The eyes blinked, the tongue moved, and it reacted to sound. But the body was gone, and the heart wasn't beating. But somehow, it was still responding. This is the story of the machine that made it possible, and the doctor who believed he could bring back the dead. Sergei Brukanenko was born in 1890. By the 1920s, he was a military doctor working for the Soviet state. He joined a lab outside of Moscow, the Institute of Experimental Physiology. There, researchers weren't treating patients. They were studying blood flow, brain activity, and the limits of biological death. Brukanenko believed circulation was the key to keeping tissue alive, so he started developing a machine. It used pumps, tubes, and motors to push blood through the body without a heart. He called it the Autojektor. Early versions were demonstrated in the late 1920s, but the most infamous tests wasn't shown until 1940 in a Soviet film called Experiments in the Revival of Organisms. We see various tests being ran on the dog's head. The tongue moves, eyes blink, and it even reacts to liquid being put in its mouth. According to the film, Brukanenko claimed the head reacted to sound, like a hammer striking the table. Soviet officials praised it, but foreign scientists were more cautious. Most modern researchers believe the movements were reflexes and not signs of awareness. But under Stalin's regime, that didn't matter. Science was political, and anything that could delay death was worth funding. The film opens up with simple credits and a black title card, Experiments in the Revival of Organisms. A narrator then takes over, introducing the machine, a device designed by Brukanenko to perform the functions of both heart and lungs, the autojector. The first demonstration is a dog's heart removed from the body, and tubes are already connected. Blood begins to flow, and without warning, the heart starts beating, not just twitching, but pumping rhythmically. Next, a set of lungs, also from a dog. They lie on a tray motionless, until the autojector starts. The lungs inflate, deflate, and inflate again, like they're breathing. No rib cage, no diaphragm, just tissue animated by machines. And then comes the final demonstration, a dog's head, severed clean. It's shown laying on a metal tray. Tubes enter the carotid artery and jugular vein, the major blood vessels of the neck. The autojector is then switched on, and blood begins to circulate. And slowly but surely, the dog's head comes to life. We see various tests being ran, like flashlights being pointed in its eyes, citric acid being put in its mouth to see its reaction. The dog's head shows clear sign of life, reacting to the tests ran on it. The narrator explains that the head responds to stimuli, light, sound, and touch. And on camera, it does. The film does not claim survival. Each organ only remains active for a few minutes. But that's not the point. The point is that these pieces of life, organs, limbs, heads, can be briefly resurrected with the right machine. And to Soviet scientists, it was revolutionary. But to Western viewers, it was horrifying. And to this day, the footage is hard to forget. A machine pumping blood to a severed head, and then the head reacting, until the screen fades to black. The film was never shown in theaters. It was produced for universities, hospitals, and state institutions. In the Soviet Union, it was praised as medical progress, but outside the USSR, it raised alarms. Western scientists questioned the ethics. Was this science, or was it cruelty in a lab coat? By the 1950s, Brukanenko faded from public view. His techniques weren't adopted widely, and the autojector was never used on humans. But the idea didn't die. American scientists began exploring open heart surgery using similar machines, and the footage never disappeared. For decades, the film was shown in biology classrooms, a reminder of what science is capable of, and what it's willing to do to push the boundaries. In 1960, Sergei Brukanenko died, and his work was buried with him, but the footage of that severed head never stopped haunting science. Though Brukanenko's work was largely forgotten for decades, his experiments were an early step toward the heart-lung machines used in modern surgery. The autojector was a primitive ancestor of today's life support technology, but the ethical questions it raised are still debated. How far should science go to push the limits of life? The severed dog head was proof of concept, but also a symbol of cold calculation in the name of progress. For some, it's a haunting reminder that the line between life and death is not always clear, and that sometimes science crosses boundaries that humanity isn't ready for. And for others, it's just that, science and about moving forward and making progress. Hello everyone. If you made it to the end, as always, thank you for watching another one of my videos. If you happen to be new around here, welcome, and I hope you enjoyed as well. I try to post new videos every Friday around 6 p.m. EST. If you did enjoy today's video, please like, comment, and maybe even consider subscribing. It really helps push out these videos, and it gets them in front of more people. That's all I have for this one. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.